Hey guys, and welcome back. So, let me ask you something. What would you do if the gods themselves cursed you, and the only way to earn forgiveness was to survive 12 impossible trials? Because today, we dive into the story of Heracles, the demigod of strength, struggle, and redemption. Just one thing before we begin: if you enjoy epic mythological stories like this one, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. This really helps me a lot and brings you even more legends from the ancient world. And now, let's begin the tale of Heracles, the greatest hero of them all. I hope you enjoyed this video and have fun.
The might of a demigod. Before the age of heroes faded into legend, there was one name whispered across every mountain, every temple, every firelit night: Heracles. Born of two worlds, child of Zeus, king of the gods, and Alcmene, a mortal woman of extraordinary grace. His birth was not a blessing, but a spark that ignited divine jealousy. For Hera, queen of Olympus, saw in him not a child, but a living insult to her throne. From the moment he drew his first breath, the heavens themselves trembled. Hera sent serpents to his cradle, twin vipers gliding through the moonlight. But when they reached him, the infant Heracles grasped them with his tiny hands and crushed the life from their coils. The gods looked on in awe. Even as a babe, his strength was that of a storm contained in mortal flesh. As he grew, so too did his legend. His voice could shake halls. His stride could break the ground beneath him. He trained under Chiron, the wise centaur, mastering the bow, the sword, and the lyre. A warrior and a scholar, both. Yet for all his might, the shadow of Hera's hatred followed him like a curse. One night, madness descended upon him, not born of his own heart, but woven by the goddess, Wrath. In his frenzy, Heracles committed an unspeakable act. He struck down those he loved most, unable to see through the veil of divine rage clouding his mind. When the madness lifted and the silence fell, he stood amid ruin. The hero who had slain monsters now faced the monster within himself. Racked by guilt, Heracles sought purification. The oracle at Delphi spoke with the voice of Apollo. To atone, he must serve King Eurystheus of Tiryns and endure 12 impossible labors, each one more perilous than the last. Not as punishment, but as redemption. And so began the greatest saga of the ancient world, a tale of blood and sweat, of triumph and loss. The story of a man who bore the weight of both mortal sin and divine destiny. The story of how Heracles, the might of a demigod, would battle beasts, gods, and fate itself to reclaim his soul. The madness and the oracle. Hera's hatred for Heracles was not fleeting, nor was it quiet. From the moment of his birth, she nurtured a relentless fury, a fire that would shadow every step of his life. She whispered into the winds, stirred the hearts of mortals, and wove illusions in the night. Until one day, her wrath took hold of him in the most terrible way. A madness, divine and unrelenting, seized Heracles. It was not born of his own will, but planted by Hera herself, a cruel gift from Olympus. His mind became a storm, his hands instruments of destruction. In that moment, he struck down those he loved most. His wife, his children, all consumed by the fury that was not his own. The world went silent, broken by his actions, and Heracles was left standing amid the ruins of his life. When the haze of madness lifted, the weight of his deeds descended upon him like a mountain. The hero, known for strength beyond measure, was now bound by guilt that no sword or shield could conquer. He wandered, seeking guidance, seeking a path that could lift the shadow from his soul. It was then that he came to the oracle of Delphi, the sacred mouthpiece of Apollo. In the flickering light of the sanctuary, the priestess spoke with a voice that echoed through time. Heracles must serve King Eurystheus of Tiryns. 12 labors, each impossible, each designed to test his strength, courage, and wisdom. Only through these trials could he cleanse his soul, atone for the lives he had lost, and earn redemption in the eyes of both gods and mortals. And so, with heavy heart and resolute spirit, Heracles prepared to embark on a journey that would stretch across lands and seas, that would pit him against beasts of legend, cunning foes, and the very limits of his own power. Each labor would be a testament to his endurance, each victory a step toward absolution. From this darkness, the hero would rise not just as a man of strength, but as a symbol of perseverance, of the unbreakable will that defines the greatest of heroes. Labor 1. The Nemean Lion. Heracles' first labor brought him to the hills of Nemea, a land shadowed by fear and whispers of a monstrous lion. This was no ordinary beast. Its fur was impervious to bronze and iron, its claws sharper than any blade, its roar a thunder that shook the valleys and sent even the bravest hunters fleeing in terror. Villagers cowered, farmers abandoned their fields, and all who dared approach were met with death. The Nemean Lion was a creature born of the earth's darkest strength, and it would require more than mere courage to defeat it. Heracles tracked the lion through dense forests and rugged mountains, each step measured, each breath controlled. He studied the beast from afar, noting its patterns, its lairs, the way the sun glinted off its unbreakable coat. Weapons proved useless. Arrows shattered, spears bent, and swords slid off its impenetrable hide. The hero realized that this challenge demanded both mind and might, the fusion of strategy and raw power. Finally, the moment came. Heracles lured the lion into a narrow cave, where the walls pressed close and the creature could not turn with its usual freedom. The battle was immense. Claws met flesh, jaws snapped with the force of storms, and every strike of Heracles' mighty arms was met with the unyielding barrier of the lion's skin. Then, with a burst of insight and a display of sheer strength, he grappled the beast, seizing it in his arms, and with a force that shook the cave, he crushed it until it could fight no more. When the struggle ended, Heracles did not simply discard the body. From the lion's hide, he fashioned a cloak and helmet, a symbol of his first triumph. The impenetrable skin became his armor, a protective mantle that would accompany him through future labors and battles. In the folds of that cloak lay not just protection, but a testament to his ingenuity and endurance. The first mark of a hero whose strength was matched only by his cleverness. And so, with the Nemean Lion defeated, the world took its first step toward remembering the name of Heracles. Not just as a man of extraordinary might, but as a hero capable of overcoming the impossible, combining wisdom with brute force, and beginning a journey that would etch his legend into eternity. Labor 2, the Lernean Hydra. The second labor of Heracles led him to the swamps of Lerna, a place shrouded in mist and legend, where a creature of terrible power lurked beneath the waters, the Lernean Hydra. This was no ordinary serpent. Its many heads writhed like living flames, and for every head that was struck down, 2 more would rise in its place, doubling the horror with each blow. Its breath was poisonous, its gaze deadly, and its body stretched across the murky marshes like a living nightmare. Heracles approached with caution, aware that brute strength alone would not suffice. The swamp hissed and bubbled around him, reeds snapping under his feet, and every step brought him closer to the serpent's lair. He watched the Hydra emerge, its many heads rising in unison, eyes gleaming with malice, and fangs dripping venom. The battle was not one of speed or power alone, but of patience, strategy, and endurance. Every strike of his club met a new challenge. Heads were severed only to sprout again, mocking his efforts. The poison in the air stung his nostrils, and the weight of the labor pressed upon him like the heavy sky before a storm. Yet Heracles was not alone. His loyal companion, Iolaus, stood beside him, ready to aid the hero with quick thinking and steady hands. Together they devised a plan. As Heracles cut each head, Iolaus seared the stump with fire, preventing the head from regrowing and neutralizing the Hydra's terrifying regenerative power. The battle raged for hours, the swamp echoing with the clash of strength and the hiss of serpent fury. Heracles moved with precision, striking with measured force, his arms a whirlwind of motion, while Iolaus, flames bit into the Hydra's necks, ensuring no new heads would rise. Slowly, inexorably, the serpent's power waned. The poisonous breath grew weaker, the heads faltered, and finally, with one decisive strike, the Lernean Hydra lay defeated, its many forms vanquished. Heracles did not leave the battlefield unmarked. From the venomous blood of the Hydra, he prepared weapons for future labors, knowing that even the deadliest forces could be turned to his advantage. The triumph of the Lernean Hydra was not merely a testament to his unmatched strength, but to his wisdom, his patience, and his ability to combine cunning with courage. It was a victory that would echo through the ages, the first of many steps in a journey that would define the greatest of heroes. Labor 3. The Cerynetan Hind. Heracles' third labor carried him across forests and mountains, toward a creature of unparalleled speed and beauty, the Cerynetan Hind. Its hooves were said to strike the ground without a sound, its golden antlers glimmered like sunlight on a tranquil lake, and its eyes reflected the very spirit of the forest. This sacred deer belonged to Artemis, goddess of the hunt and protector of the wild, and to harm it would bring divine wrath as swift and sharp as any arrow. Heracles pursued the hind for an entire year, following its tracks through dense woods, over rushing rivers, and across windswept plains. He learned its habits, noted the patterns of its movements, and moved with patience and reverence, knowing that strength alone could not claim this prize. The golden deer was alive with grace and cunning, a creature that seemed almost untouchable. Yet Heracles approached not with cruelty, but with careful strategy and deep respect for the laws of nature and the will of the gods. At last, in a clearing bathed in morning light, the hind paused, its breath soft and steady, its antlers gleaming like living gold. Heracles seized the moment, moving with the precision of a hunter and the restraint of a wise man. He captured the deer gently, binding it with cords that would not harm it, ensuring that not a single drop of blood was spilled. His triumph was not in the conquest of force, but in the mastery of restraint, in honoring the sacred bond between the mortal and the divine. When he presented the Cerynetan hind to King Eurystheus, it was not merely a demonstration of skill, but a testament to the hero's understanding of balance, that strength must be tempered with respect, that power wielded carelessly could invite disaster. The labor was a lesson in humility, in patience, and in the recognition that some victories are won not through brute force, but through reverence for the natural and divine order. Through this labor, Heracles proved that even the swiftest, most elusive creatures could be met with wisdom as well as courage, and that the greatest heroes honor the laws of the gods as much as they conquer the challenges set before them. The Cerynetan hind, captured unharmed, became a symbol of his skill, his patience, and his growing understanding of the responsibilities that came with unparalleled strength. Labor 4. The Erymanthian Boar. Heracles' fourth labor took him to the rugged slopes of Mount Erymanthos, where a creature of formidable power roamed unchecked, the Erymanthian boar. This was no ordinary beast. It was massive and wild, with tusks sharp as swords and a strength that could uproot trees and flatten the land. Farmers fled in terror, their villages threatened, and the surrounding countryside became a place of fear and desolation. The people whispered of the boar's fury, and none dared approach, for it was said that even the bravest hunters had met ruin in its path. Heracles pursued the boar through deep forests and across snow-laden hills, his breath steaming in the cold winter air. Each step was measured, each movement deliberate, as he tracked the creature's path of destruction. The boar charged through the trees, trampling undergrowth, shaking the earth, and testing the hero's endurance. Heracles, undeterred by the freezing wind and the icy ground, followed relentlessly, knowing that brute strength alone would not be enough. He had to combine his speed, his cunning, and his unyielding determination. At last, the chase led to a narrow valley where the boar's movements were constrained by the walls of the mountains. Heracles sprang into action, dodging its deadly tusks, catching it in a trap of his own making, and finally seizing it with hands of iron. He wrestled the beast with skill and precision, driving it into submission without taking its life. The villagers watched in awe as the monstrous boar, once a terror upon the land, was brought alive before their eyes, a testament to the hero's courage, patience, and mastery over even the wildest forces of nature. When Heracles delivered the Erymanthian boar to King Eurystheus, it was not simply a conquest of strength, but a display of ingenuity and control. The hero had faced a creature of raw fury and tamed it without spilling its blood, proving that true power lies not just in the force of the body, but in the wisdom and restraint of the mind. This labor, like those before it, cemented Heracles, growing legend, a man capable of facing the impossible, respecting the balance of nature, and emerging victorious against challenges that would have humbled any mortal. Labor 5. The Augean stables. Heracles' fifth labor brought him to the plains of Elis, to the stables of King Augeas, a task so immense that it seemed impossible even to the gods themselves. These stables had not been cleaned in decades, housing thousands of cattle whose droppings had built up into mountains of filth. The stench alone was unbearable, and no mortal laborer could imagine restoring them in a single day. Yet this was the challenge set before the hero, not a test of strength alone, but a trial of ingenuity and vision. Heracles approached the stables with careful thought. At first glance, one might think brute force would suffice, but he knew the limits of mere muscle. Even he, mighty as he was, could not remove such a weight of waste in a day. So he devised a plan that was as clever as it was bold. He diverted the course of two great rivers, the Alpheus and the Peneus, channeling their powerful waters through the stables. With the force of rushing currents, years of accumulated filth were swept away in hours, cleansing the stables as if by magic. The rivers roared through the stables, carrying away filth, debris, and the memory of neglect, leaving the ground clean and renewed. Heracles' mind had accomplished what his arms alone could never have achieved. This labor became a symbol of his genius as much as his might, showing that true heroism combines strength with strategy, muscle with intellect. When King Augeas witnessed the transformation, he was awed, yet he also sought to deny Heracles the honor, forgetting the lesson that wisdom must be respected alongside power. But the labor stood completed, an enduring testament to human ingenuity and the ability to conquer what seems unconquerable. Heracles had proven that even the most overwhelming and grotesque of challenges could be overcome, not merely through force, but through foresight, cleverness, and an understanding of the natural world. Thus, the Augean stables became more than a feat of cleansing. They became a story of brilliance, perseverance, and the hero's ability to see solutions where others saw only despair. With each labor, Heracles, legend grew, a man not only of strength, but of wisdom and courage, capable of turning impossible tasks into lasting triumphs. Labor 6. The Stymphalian birds. Heracles' sixth labor led him to the dark and marshy lands of Stymphalos, where a terrible plague had taken flight in the form of monstrous birds. These were no ordinary creatures of feather and wing. They were man-eating, their beaks sharp as swords, their talons capable of tearing through armor, and their feathers, metallic and unyielding, could be launched like deadly arrows. Villages trembled beneath their shadow, crops were destroyed, and no hunter dared approach the marshes where they nested. The people whispered of their terror, calling them the Stymphalian birds, and prayed for deliverance. Heracles arrived at the marshes, knowing that brute strength alone could not overcome this flock. The swamp was thick, the reeds entangling, and the birds flew high, out of reach of any weapon. As he pondered his task, the goddess Athena appeared, her presence a calm in the storm of chaos. She gifted Heracles a bronze rattle, a device of cunning and ingenuity. With it, he could strike the reeds and summon a sound so piercing that the birds would take to the skies, unable to resist the divine signal. With a steady hand, Heracles shook the rattle, and the air erupted with a metallic clamor. The birds rose in a deafening flurry of wings and shrieks, their cries echoing across the marshlands. Heracles, drawing his bow, released arrow after arrow, striking the creatures as they took flight, driving them away from the villages and toward lands where they could cause no harm. Some fell to the ground, vanquished by his aim. Others, disoriented and frightened, scattered across the forests, never to return to terrorize the people again. This labor was not merely a demonstration of strength, but a testament to divine cooperation, intelligence, and precision. Athena's guidance in Heracles' skill combined to overcome a challenge that no mortal could face alone. The Stymphalian birds became a symbol of balance between mortal action and divine wisdom, showing that even the most chaotic and dangerous forces could be mastered when courage and intellect worked together. By completing this labor, Heracles not only freed the people of Stymphalos from terror, but he also cemented his role as a hero, whose victories were born of both strength and strategy, guided by respect for the gods and their subtle hand in the affairs of men. Labor 7. The Cretan Bull. Heracles' seventh labor took him across the Augean Sea to the island of Crete, where a creature of immense power roamed the Cretan bull. This was no ordinary beast. Its muscles rippled like living stone, its horns curved like polished spears, and its roar shook the cliffs and valleys, striking fear into the hearts of all who heard it. The bull had been sent by Poseidon, a gift of the gods that had turned wild, a force of nature untamed, and it was said that no man could control its strength. Heracles approached the bull with measured resolve. He observed its patterns, the way it pawed the ground, and the moments when it bellowed its fury across the plains. The creature charged with the speed of the wind and the weight of mountains, yet Heracles' courage did not falter. He leapt into its path, evading its deadly horns, and seized the beast with hands of iron, wrestling it into submission through a combination of skill, strength, and unwavering determination. The battle between man and bull raged across the hills, the earth trembling beneath their struggle. Each movement of the Cretan bull was a test of Heracles' endurance, his ability to harness power without being overwhelmed. At last, with a final display of his incomparable might, he subdued the creature, bringing it under his control without unnecessary harm, a living testament to both conquest and restraint. Heracles guided the mighty bull across the seas, through storms and perilous waves, back to the court of King Eurystheus. There, the people marveled at the sight. A creature of divine strength, tamed by a mortal hero, brought as a symbol of triumph and the burdens that accompany it. The Cretan bull was more than a labor. It was a lesson in courage, perseverance, and the careful balance between force and respect for the power one seeks to master. In this labor, Heracles demonstrated that true heroism lies not only in defeating the dangerous, but in guiding it with wisdom, showing that even the mightiest forces of the natural world can be met with both strength and understanding. Labor 8. The Mares of Diomedes. Heracles' eighth labor led him to the rugged coast of Thrace, where King Diomedes kept a herd of mares unlike any other. These were no ordinary horses. They were savage, man-eating beasts, their mouths blood-stained from feeding on human flesh, their hooves striking terror into all who approached. Villagers whispered of the screams that echoed across the fields, of the riders who vanished beneath their monstrous power, and of the cruel king who delighted in their ferocity. The land itself seemed poisoned by their presence, a reflection of the wickedness of their master. Heracles approached with calm determination, understanding that brute strength alone would not suffice. He observed the mares, noting their patterns, the way they moved in unison, the subtle cues that betrayed their wild instincts. Yet the hero knew that the root of the chaos was not merely the animals, but the cruelty of Diomedes himself. To subdue the horses, he would need both courage and cunning. Seizing the moment, Heracles turned the tables on the tyrant. He bound Diomedes and fed him to his own mares, satisfying their hunger and breaking the cycle of violence that had plagued the land. The horses, released from their unholy obsession with human flesh, became calm and manageable, no longer instruments of terror. The people of Thrace watched in awe as the hero transformed devastation into order, chaos into harmony, through both justice and strength. This labor was a profound lesson in poetic justice. Heracles demonstrated that the wickedness of mortals could be met with clever action and courage, and that even creatures of great power could be tamed when their source of corruption was removed. The mares of Diomedes, once symbols of fear and destruction, were now a testament to the hero's wisdom and decisive action. By completing this labor, Heracles proved that heroism is not only measured in the defeat of beasts, but in the restoration of balance and the delivery of justice. It was a reminder that true strength lies in both mind and body, in knowing when to strike and when to guide, and in shaping a world where cruelty cannot endure. Labor 9. The Belt of Hippolyta. Heracles' ninth labor took him across the seas to the distant land of the Amazons, a nation of warrior women led by their formidable queen Hippolyta. She was a woman of unmatched courage and strength, a ruler whose skill in battle was famed across the lands, and whose heart was as noble as it was fierce. The task before Heracles was to obtain the magical girdle of Hippolyta, a symbol of her power, to bring it back to King Eurystheus. At first, the encounter promised to be peaceful. Hippolyta, recognizing the hero's divine heritage and valor, offered the belt willingly, seeing no dishonor in granting it to one so worthy. Yet, as often in the tales of gods and mortals, peace was not to last. Hera, still consumed by hatred for Heracles, wove deceit into the hearts of the Amazons, stirring fear and suspicion. What could have been a gift of respect became a battlefield in an instant, the air charged with tension and the clash of ideals. Heracles fought not out of desire, but necessity, seeking to fulfill his labor while minimizing harm. The Amazons, loyal to their queen, resisted with unmatched skill and determination. Spears clashed, shields shattered, and the cries of battle echoed across the forests. Yet Heracles' strength, tempered by wisdom and careful strategy, carried him through the chaos. In the end, he claimed the belt, securing it as the task demanded, but not without the sorrow of unnecessary bloodshed and the weight of misunderstanding that Hera had cunningly imposed. This labor revealed the complexities of heroism. Courage alone was not enough. Judgment, restraint, and an awareness of the unseen forces shaping events were essential. Heracles left the land of the Amazons with the belt in hand, but with a deepened understanding of the cost of deceit and the fragile balance between honor and conflict. The belt of Hippolyta stands as a symbol not only of victory, but of the trials that accompany power, the delicate interplay of trust, pride, and the hidden hand of the gods. Heracles' journey through this labor reminded all who would hear the tale that even heroes are not immune to the tangled webs of fate, and that valor must often be accompanied by wisdom and compassion. Labor 10. The Cattle of Geryon. Heracles' 10th labor took him to the far reaches of the known world, to the sun-scorched lands of Erythea, where the mighty Geryon dwelled. This giant was unlike any mortal or divine foe he had faced before. 3 bodies joined at the waist, each as strong as the last, each armed with arms that could crush men like twigs. Geryon kept a herd of magnificent red cattle, fierce and untamed, whose beauty was matched only by their value. To steal these cattle and bring them to King Eurystheus was a task that would test every ounce of Heracles' strength, cunning, and endurance. The journey itself was a trial. Heracles crossed deserts and seas, his path long and perilous, until he reached the western edge of the world. There he sought the aid of Helios, the sun god, who lent him his golden cup, a vessel of divine power that allowed the hero to sail across the vast, endless ocean. Waves rose like mountains, storms lashed at the vessel, and yet Heracles pressed on, guided by unyielding determination and the clarity of purpose that had carried him through every labor before. Upon reaching Geryon's domain, the battle began. The giant struck with all 3 bodies, a whirlwind of fists and fury, while the guardian dogs and monstrous herds challenged Heracles at every turn. Yet the hero moved with precision, his arrows finding their mark, his strength overcoming the giant's might, until Geryon lay defeated, the 3 bodies struck down by the unstoppable force of the demigod. With the cattle under his control, Heracles began the arduous journey home. He drove the herd across lands and seas, protecting them from bandits, beasts, and the wrath of nature itself. Each step tested his endurance, each obstacle demanded ingenuity, yet he persisted, knowing that the labor was more than a test of might. It was a testament to his resilience, his courage, and the divine favor that accompanied him. The cattle of Geryon symbolized more than wealth or conquest. They represented the hero's ability to confront the impossible, to traverse unknown lands, and to master challenges that lay at the boundaries of the mortal and divine. Through this labor, Heracles' legend spread further than ever before. A tale of a man who dared to reach the edges of the world and return triumphant. A hero whose strength, wit, and courage knew no bounds. Labor 11. The Apples of the Hesperides. Heracles' 11th labor led him to the distant garden of the Hesperides, a place shrouded in twilight and legend, where golden apples grew upon trees of divine origin. These were no ordinary fruits. Each apple shimmered with sunlight captured in its skin, a treasure of the gods themselves, imbued with immortality and guarded fiercely. Surrounding the garden were the Hesperides, nymphs of dusk and evening, whose vigilance was unmatched, and the fearsome dragon Lernean, whose 100 coils and countless eyes left no corner unguarded. Heracles approached with awe, knowing that brute force alone could not claim this prize. The garden lay far beyond mortal lands, and its guardians were creatures of cunning and divine power. As he pondered the path forward, he sought counsel and devised a plan of both strength and wisdom. In some accounts, he attempted to take the apples directly, yet the dragon's vigilance and the nymphs' watchful eyes made such an approach impossible. It was then that Heracles encountered Atlas, the Titan condemned to hold the heavens upon his shoulders. Atlas, weary from his eternal burden, offered a proposition. He would retrieve the apples for Heracles, if only the hero would temporarily bear the weight of the sky. Heracles, understanding the cleverness of the exchange, accepted. He lifted the heavens upon his shoulders, feeling the crushing weight of the cosmos, a burden that tested every muscle, every fiber of his being. Atlas, freed from his toil, descended to pluck the golden apples from the divine trees. With the treasures in hand, he returned to Heracles, who, in a display of cunning, tricked the Titan into reclaiming his burden, taking back the sky while retaining the precious apples. In this way, the labor was completed, not merely through strength, but through intelligence, negotiation, and careful strategy. The apples of the Hesperides symbolized more than immortality. They represented the union of power and wisdom, the understanding that even the greatest obstacles could be overcome with cleverness and foresight. Heracles' journey to the garden, his encounter with the Titan, and his triumph over divine guardians underscored the lessons of patience, cunning, and resourcefulness, reminding all who heard the tale that true heroism is as much a matter of mind as it is of muscle. Labor 12. The capture of Cerberus. Heracles' 12th and final labor took him to the very threshold of the living and the dead, the underworld itself, realm of Hades, lord of the unseen. This was no ordinary journey. The path was shadowed, treacherous, and haunted by spirits whose existence defied mortal understanding. The hero was tasked with capturing Cerberus, the three-headed hound of Hades, guardian of the gates of death, whose ferocity kept the souls of the dead from escaping and the living from entering without permission. To face such a creature was to confront the ultimate limits of courage, strength, and destiny. Heracles descended through Tartarus and the shadowed meadows of Asphodel, guided by the unseen forces that governed the realm. He encountered spirits, shades of the dead, and whispered warnings, yet he pressed on with unwavering resolve. Hades, aware of the hero's purpose, permitted the labor, recognizing that the courage and favor of Heracles were not to be underestimated. Cerberus waited, each of its three heads snapping, teeth glinting, and eyes burning with the fire of the underworld itself. The struggle was immense. Heracles grappled the monstrous hound with his bare hands, feeling the power and fury of a creature born to guard the boundary between life and death. Cerberus lunged, bit, and snapped, yet the hero's strength and skill prevailed. Every movement required precision, every maneuver tested his endurance, yet with patience, resolve, and unmatched might, he subdued the beast without the use of weapons, proving not only his physical superiority, but his ability to respect and master even the most fearsome forces of the divine order. With Cerberus under control, Heracles emerged from the underworld, triumphant, carrying the guardian of the dead to King Eurystheus. This labor was more than a test of muscle. It was a confrontation with mortality itself, a demonstration of the hero's mastery over both life and death. The act symbolized the culmination of his 12 labors, the ultimate proof that courage, strength, and wisdom combined can overcome the greatest of trials. Through this final conquest, Heracles' legend was sealed. He had faced monsters, gods, and the very realm of the dead, and returned unscathed, a hero whose deeds transcended mortal limits. The capture of Cerberus stood as a testament to endurance, ingenuity, and the indomitable spirit. A story that would echo through eternity, inspiring all who heard it to confront their own impossible challenges with courage and resolve. Redemption and immortality. With the completion of the 12 labors, Heracles stood not merely as a hero of extraordinary strength, but as a figure reborn through suffering, endurance, and unyielding courage. Each labor had tested him beyond the limits of mortal ability, forcing him to confront monsters, gods, and the very boundaries of human potential. Through these trials, he He had carried the weight of guilt for the tragic loss of his family, the curse inflicted by Hera, and the burdens placed upon him by destiny itself. Yet now, having fulfilled every task with unwavering resolve, Heracles was freed from the shadows of his past, redeemed through deeds that bridged the mortal and divine realms. The hero's path to immortality was both literal and symbolic. Mortal as he had been, he now transcended humanity. Welcomed among the gods on Olympus, a testament to the possibility of transformation through courage, perseverance, and moral fortitude. His body, once subject to weakness and mortality, became eternal. His name and stories would echo through generations as a symbol of the triumph of will over adversity. The labors were not mere tests of strength, but lessons in patience, ingenuity, and the necessity of confronting fear and chaos with both wisdom and resolve. Heracles' journey teaches that redemption is earned through action, that endurance is as much a matter of the spirit as of the body, and that true heroism lies in facing what seems impossible, not merely for personal glory, but to restore balance, justice, and honor. Even the gods watched in admiration, acknowledging that the trials of Heracles reflected the eternal struggle between human limitation and divine aspiration. As the hero ascended to Olympus, his deeds immortalized in song and story, he became a symbol of the power inherent in perseverance, the necessity of confronting one's flaws, and the ultimate possibility of redemption. Strength alone had not carried him. It was the combination of courage, intelligence, humility, and unwavering determination that allowed Heracles to achieve what no other mortal could. In this way, the story of Heracles endures, a timeless testament to the hero's journey from suffering to glory, from mortal man to immortal legend, inspiring all who hear it to seek courage, endure trials, and strive for the greatness within themselves. Symbolism and Legacy. Heracles stands as more than a figure of brute strength or extraordinary feats. He embodies the eternal struggle of humanity against the forces of chaos, suffering, and the inner darkness that dwells within every mortal heart. Each labor, each confrontation with monsters, divine beings, and seemingly insurmountable obstacles serves as a mirror to the trials that all humans face. Fear, loss, guilt, and the challenge of rising above circumstances that threaten to overwhelm. In his flaws, in his moments of rage and vulnerability, Heracles reflects the human condition, reminding us that even heroes are not free from error or sorrow. Yet it is in his perseverance, his unwavering courage in the face of impossible odds, that Heracles achieves divinity. His labors were not mere spectacles of power, but journeys of moral and spiritual significance. He transformed suffering into triumph, weakness into strength, and despair into redemption. By wrestling monsters, navigating divine machinations, and confronting the darkest realms of existence, Heracles demonstrates that true heroism is not the absence of fear or flaw, but the ability to endure, to act with wisdom and courage, and to rise repeatedly in defiance of adversity. Heracles' legacy extends far beyond his mortal deeds. He became a symbol of resilience, a touchstone for stories that explore the tension between human limitation and aspiration, mortality, and the divine. In art, song, and myth, his image endures as the ultimate hero, not perfect, but magnificent in his perseverance, inspiring generations to confront their own trials with the same indomitable spirit. The struggles he faced, the monsters he overcame, and the divine challenges he endured illustrate a universal truth, that heroism is forged in the crucible of suffering, tempered by courage, and immortalized through deeds that balance strength with wisdom. Through Heracles, the Greeks imparted a timeless lesson that life's trials, no matter how overwhelming, can be met with perseverance and courage, and that even flawed beings can rise to greatness. His story endures as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of redemption, and the eternal pursuit of honor, strength, and virtue. In every retelling, Heracles remains a beacon of hope, a reminder that heroism is defined not by perfection, but by the courage to face the impossible and emerge transformed. The eternal hero. As we draw the story of Heracles to a close, it is clear that his journey was more than a series of feats or battles. It was a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, a narrative that captures the essence of perseverance, courage, and redemption. Through the fury of monsters, the cunning of the gods, and the weight of his own failings, Heracles forged a path that no mortal had ever trodden before. Each labor, each confrontation with danger, each trial of body and mind was not merely a challenge, but a step toward understanding the balance between strength and wisdom, between mortal limitation and divine aspiration. Heracles stands as a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, one can rise, endure, and transform suffering into triumph. His story teaches that heroism is not the absence of flaw or fear, but the courage to confront them, to act with determination, and to persist when the world seems insurmountable. He embodies the eternal struggle of humanity, striving against chaos, confronting inner darkness, and reaching beyond the boundaries of ordinary life to achieve greatness. Through pain, through struggle, through 12 impossible trials, Heracles rose not just as a warrior, but as a beacon of hope and inspiration for all who would hear his tale. His name, immortalized in myth and legend, echoes through time as a testament to the power of perseverance, the necessity of courage, and the enduring strength of the human heart. The story of Heracles is a story of transformation, of redemption, and of the eternal hero who dared to face the impossible and emerge triumphant. Through pain, through struggle, through 12 impossible trials, Heracles rose, and the world would never forget his name.
And it was the story of Heracles, a man who faced monsters, gods, and his own darkness, and still rose above it all. So, if you enjoyed this journey through Greek mythology, please don't forget to like the video, and please subscribe if you haven't already. It helps the channel grow, and it lets me bring you even more epic stories like this one. So, thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay curious, stay brave, and I see you in the next myth. Bye bye!